This week's co-op mutation is called Futile Resistance and is on the Lock and Load map. Unidentified lifeforms have been detected on Ulnar, consuming everything in their path and replicating themselves as they advance. Amon's forces are focused on preventing your armies from escaping. Keep your distance and exterminate these pests before all is lost. Now, I've just completed it on Brutal, as you can see. Got all of the achieves this week. And I did it on the Carax, and my co-op partner used Artanis, and we used the strategy of Mass Tempest so that my opponent could push into the enemy's bases and push back their advancing forces, as well as take out those pesky little propagators that come up. They look like they basically look like the Zerg lifeforms. So the mutations are Propagators. Shapeless lifeforms creep towards your base, transforming all the units and structures they touch into copies of themselves. Then there's Temporal Field. Enemy Temporal Fields are periodically deployed throughout the map, and also player units are slowed by all enemy attacks. Now, it's not too bad once you've kind of figured out the gimmick of this week's mutation, and it's really the Propagators are a bit of a pain in the bum. If you happen to choose a co-op commander such as Stukov, you're gonna have a really bad time, as any melee units are basically going to feed the Propagators, and yeah, you will see. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what I mean by have a bad time, and then I will play my replay of how my co-op partner and I managed to complete this week's challenge. So without further ado, we'll go into how I failed. So we've got one of these propagators coming in. You see it, there it is, and oh dear. I thought these cannons should do enough, but they've actually got a reasonable amount of health. They have 450, and as you can see, everything's about to become a problem. And everything's a little bit too late, and then they grab a hold and push, and we're all about to have a bad time. Whoops. And as you can see, I'm not particularly happy with this. There we go. Okay, so this is the replay where I have managed to complete this week's co-op mutation, and I have done it with I played as Carax, and my co-op partner played as Artanis. Now, what I was focusing on was starting here, building up my defenses at this point here, using the big stompy towers. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but I'm sure they'll pop up in a second. There we are, the Terran monoliths. So you need to put about 3 or 4 to have an easy time of taking down those propagators, as they're a real pain in the bum. I could have moved it up a bit further here, that would have been ideal, but I just didn't, because I don't know, I'm silly. So now the idea is to have a nice little bulwark so that you'll keep those back, and also to push forward here and take your natural, because on this map you really do need to put down these particular towers in quite a large number, as they can damage them pretty quickly. And the other thing I did was I used my probes to kite these little buggers towards my tower, and I nearly had a bad time there. So that wasn't very good. So just get that up. Yeah, cool. And now I was being a bit silly. Anyway, never mind. So as you can see, they pop like every minute or so from about the 4-minute mark, and they start off as 1. So see the propagators coming down, and cool. So as you can see, you really need 4 of them to one-shot them. And you really need to have your natural up and running in order to get all of your lovely upgrades as Karax. You really need to get these out pretty quickly. As soon as you've got your 2 bases running, it then becomes quite smooth. And as you can see, my partner is going Tempest, and he's just going to focus on pumping these out while I start to get up these defenses. And you can see, kiting this over here, and that basically made short work of that. Other than that, it's quite an easy start. You can, as Karax, you can basically cover all the things all the opponent's things that become a problem. And you can see my partner is moving forward and is going to come in, and we're going to take our first celestial lock. There we go. Oh, that got a bit close. The idea is just to really create little bulwarks. The other way I could have made them is up like this, which you will see later ends up being a bit of a gap that comes in and takes this away from us. I'm a bit hesitant to move too far forward. My main objective is to really just get my macro going. I really need to get these upgrades done, so that, as you can see, I've just gone and there we go. Just line them up to just research them as quickly as possible, because you really do need to have as much of that solarite energy generating as quickly as you can. And as you can see, with basically 5 Tempests, you can basically cakewalk this whole thing quite easily. There we go, and another kite. And you just got to keep an eye out on the map for these little buggers, and they come pretty quickly, pretty frequently. About a minute, and it feels like 30 seconds, but they start coming more and more and more. And you really want a fantastic line of defense here, and another one here. As you can see, I'm building up. You really want to be able to keep your naturals quite well protected before you start really pushing out to place your defenses down around the celestial locks. Now, one mistake I made was I thought it was a brilliant idea to go and build carriers. It is in fact an awful idea to build carriers. It is very, very bad, because the propagators, they will go and propagate your interceptors on the carriers, and there's 8 of them, and I very nearly failed this run through simply because I built one of those. However, mirages end up being, which are these lovely little units here, they end up being quite, oh, there we go, nearly lost a bit of a foothold there. Yeah, it was just unfortunate that Zerg was the opponent on this map. It just made it a little bit more difficult to keep these up, but it seems to have all worked out quite well. And yeah, I really needed to have got those upgrades out a bit earlier. Anyway, never mind. Spoiler, we do win. There we go. There's 2 propagators out on the map, and as you can see, the longer you get into this, we're now at almost 16 minutes. The more of these will push forward, and that's 1 down, and that's 2. And you see, you just really need a nice long line of Khaderan monoliths to hold those at bay, and it's good to just have the photon cannons up to detect, because the Khaderans don't actually detect, and neither do your shield batteries, so you need them up, as every now and again they do send cloaked units at you, so that includes DTs if you're with Protoss. And unfortunately on this map, which was a little bit irritating, there are a number of lurkers floating around the place. It's a bit of a pain in the bottom. So what I sunk like 1,000 minerals into a couple of carriers, and it was a really poor choice, which I regretted immediately. So mirages are a really good way to go about it. You can pop in, and I believe I haven't actually tried to pick up any of the propagators, so that might be a way of dealing with them. I'm not entirely sure if that is something you can even do. As you can see now, my partner has 16 of these little buggers, big buggers, and he's just, you know, basically A-walking over everything. So what was I doing? Oh yeah, see, that's where I made the mistake. Hang on a sec. Let's just walk that back a little bit. There we go. Okay. I think I managed to get that. There, he's pushing up. I'm bringing over my carrier, thinking I'm all that. And I'm just going to pop him here. Yes, he says attempts make very easy. And as you can see, oh god, oh god. Now there's 4 of them. 5 of them. So if any of them got to this line of defenses here, that would be very bad, because then they would just push here, and it takes quite a lot. I mean, the purified beam basically doesn't melt them down very quickly at all. Your best bet is to just have your defenses up running. So you really don't want to make a mistake. And again, once again, I had one of these out, and that was nearly a bad time, and I learned my lesson and pulled them right back. As you can see, again, they're just spawning. There is, I think there's about 4 or 5 of them at once. So okay, yep, as you see, I've pushed out here. I'm now mostly using the Daelaam monoliths as defensive positions, and they, you know, clean them up quite nicely. And there's the lurkers. So I had a problem getting over here. I didn't want to send over the carriers in case one of these little buggers came over and caused us a lot of headaches. So, and that's when I think, okay, right, we'll send out some mirages, and that actually did the job quite nicely. We will end up wrapping this up within about 28 minutes. Now, we probably could have done it maybe a bit quicker if I hadn't made those few mistakes. I was quite happy with how we started out, how we both sort of progressed at the start. Yep, not a problem here, just completely holding back any major attacks while he just pushes forward and starts to clear out these bases. There we go, well, just not a problem at all. And I've already got one of my mirages just following him around, and he's got one there, and really it was just a case of slightly poor timed, a little bit of poor timing. If we'd pushed it a bit earlier, it wouldn't be quite as bad. As you can see though, we have plenty of time. Yeah, and now just becomes a case of all of these here. You need, how many defenses do I have here? I have about 8 turrets. And that keeps them at bay. Now, I'll just pause there. Some great places to turret up are the first celestial lock, about there. I think from further reflection, I think about here would be a good spot. However, you need to have moved up a little bit, and it's just a good place to start sort of here, so you can take down this monolith here. Was able to clear out all of these rocks, so it basically made it really. I could get this up really quickly, and then using your probes to sort of kite those propagators towards them and take them down quite nicely. This, as you can see, is a nice little spot. It stops them from coming over and getting pushing down here at this lock here. It also stops any further advances of the Amon's forces, but really early on you want to lock these 2 entrances down, as the propagators don't come in this way early on. Your only main concern is these 2 routes into your natural areas, and we'll just continue that on. And as you can see, we were almost there. Now we just got to go in and fix that up. I will send over, once these push over here, we'll send a Mirage over. And we'll just sort of watch what I did last. Send it over. Artanis was able to drop down one of the... Yep, just clearing all that up. That Celestial Lock is being taken. Up on the top left. My partner goes in and clears that up, and then he pops one of those down, and then it's basically, that is GG. Once we'd worked out the gimmick of it, once it's, you know, it's really not that difficult. It's just about getting your timings right. It's about making sure that you push, yeah. And while we were waiting for some things to push, we took down the little bonus objective, which is always nice to grab if you can. And yep, there we go. That is this week's co-op mutation. If you liked what I did, please feel free to give it a like. If you want to see I'll at least attempt these each week. I'm not always successful, or I haven't managed to get around to attempting it. Then I may or may not actually upload it. If it was a real shocker, I may just upload all of my failed attempts at it, just for, you know, shits and giggles. But I think if you sort of follow that little guide on how to deal with it, it'll be quite easy to finish off this week's co-op mutation. I would also be considering using Swan, maybe. Just as using siege tanks might be really great, but to be completely honest, Carrax is so much easier. All of his towers are able to go to hit air and ground defend attackers. It just, why handicap yourself? At least on the brutal difficulty. I mean, if you want a bit of a challenge, you could go Swan, or if you could even go Rainer if you want to go Marine Marauder Medic. And well and truly, that's it for this week. Once again, like, share, subscribe if you like my content, and hopefully see you all next week. Have a great day.